Wayne, what's happening?
I am ready whenever you guys are. Glad to be on board today.
All right. So we are going to get started. I know there's other people coming in, but I say this every time. I want to be respectful of your guys' times that show up on time, right? And so waiting for those people that maybe they got a deal going, maybe they're on a phone call, whatever, something else. So Wayne, in talking to Brandon, this has kind of been like the Brandon mini series the last 3 weeks, because 2 weeks ago we had Rachel. Rachel talked to us about creating funnels using ClickFunnels and sorting leads and everything. That was pretty awesome. Then last week we had Greg talking about copywriting, some good content there. And then Wayne, I'm going to let Brandon introduce you, but a lot of my conversations with Brandon are, so I was talking to Wayne the other day, or when I was talking to my coach. So I know you guys collaborate a lot of good nuggets shared back and forth. And Brandon obviously thinks enough about you, get you registered and introduce you to some more of our team. So welcome. And Brandon, maybe you could introduce him and then we'll let Wayne rip right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And going on the Brandon mini series, obviously I want to bring everybody that I bring in. I want to be like, hey, I've had experience with these people. So I'm just not like, oh, hey, random person, throw them out here just to have content. So in the spirit of bringing great content, it's odd. I purposely sought out Wayne as a coach, as a real estate agent, because he wasn't just about coaching real estate agents. And that I don't want somebody to, hey, Brandon, we got a call with role play. I'm going to tell you how to do this script to talk to buyers. Like that's not what we talk about ever. Although if we wanted to do that, I'm sure he would help me with that as well. But he's been very, very instrumental in everyone hears me vomit about my book that came out, about a month ago. Wayne is the one that pretty much made that happen. Within only a few months of coaching with him, he was able to get me on track and ready to go. So very excited about that, and very excited to have him share with us just some great coaching ideas and things like that. So Wayne, it's yours. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. And I really do appreciate all of you. And I want to honor everyone's time as well. So if it's okay, I'm going to jump in pretty quick into I'll take you about a minute so you know who you're listening to. I am a coach. I do work with realtors and other business owners in client attraction, client creation. There's a difference in attracting the right client and creating the right client. We'll get into that maybe today. But there's also, my background was in behavioral science, and actually I was a marriage and family therapist, and I really wanted to help people. I wanted to see people's lives change. But what I realized as a therapist, I could do that, but I could only make a little bit of money. And I'm just going to be real. I could never see myself making multiple 6 figures, 7 figures. And I thought these skill sets that we're learning from psychology, from hypnosis, from different areas, they're truly saving marriages. They're making people better. How can we apply this in the business world? And I want to say that because sometimes you've got to come in with ethics and morality. I just always like to give that little bit of a preface, because some of the things you're going to learn today, once you get it, and I'm going to be bold in this, if you'll really pay attention to what I'm teaching, you're not going to see the world. It's almost like when you've seen it, you can't unsee it. And what I mean by that is you'll see politicians, you'll see advertisers, you'll see people in your team, whatever, and you'll see them using some of these techniques the right way and the wrong way. Because we're always influenced. We're always influenced every single day in this. Are you taking responsibility for the influence you're given, or the way you're being influenced? And so my disclaimer is just simple: use ethics, use morality. Other than that, let's jump in how to persuade the unconscious or the subconscious mind. And I'll use those terms at the same time. The unconscious, subconscious, if you were to rip open somebody's brain, it would be very messy. But if you look for the unconscious, subconscious, you can't find this part of the brain. Because even in the unconscious mind, if you study neuroscience, there's different parts that activate. But those are the parts that are below the radar, if that makes sense. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, you should join EXP. Hey, you should buy a house with me. You should list a house with me. Oh my gosh, sales resistance goes up. We all know this. It's that strong, who are you? You're a 1970 used car salesperson. It just comes up. But if you can instead let that person decide, hey, I think maybe I should come on board with you guys. That could be another option for me. Then they start to convince themselves. And that's what I'm going to talk about a lot today in the time that we have. Now, this is about a 14-hour class that we're going to do in 40 minutes. So I'd advise you to take notes. And if you have questions, feel free to pop them in chat. And, you know, if anybody needs something, either, hey, I want to answer right now, wave, you know, throw something at the screen and I'll be happy to answer any questions. So for simplistic terms, let's look at persuading people. I know some of you are like, I need to list some homes. I mean, inventory is low. We need to list homes. I need to work with some buyers. I need to build a team. I'm building rev share. I want to influence my child not to pee on the floor. I want to influence my wife to fall back in love with me. I don't care what your influence is, you're always communicating. And there's the conscious mind and the subconscious or unconscious, either way you look at it. And if you think about that, every time somebody comes to you with an offer, you'll better go, are they speaking to me consciously or unconsciously? And we operate in both realms each and every day. Now, we're influenced both ways, but there is a way of influencing more effectively, quicker, and maybe I'm just lazy. My wife says I am, but I don't want to sit there and try to convince somebody. When Brandon said, hey, Wayne, what would it look like for me to be your coach or for you to be my coach? Brandon, I didn't give you a hard sales pitch by any means, because first of all, that's just not my style. I thought, why not just let's look at options. Here's how it would look financially. Here's how it would look with us working together. And Brandon, if you remember, I said, hey, you need to think about that and convince yourself if that's what you want to do. And here we are. So it really is learning how to work with people in their natural way of making decisions. And so new recruits, more money in your pocket, build a team, whatever it is you desire. I'm going to show you how I've used this. Now I use this communication model a couple of different ways. Number one, I'm a minister. So am I hypnotizing people to receive the gospel? No, but I definitely know how to communicate with my flock. So I use it in that realm. I use this with my children. I use this with my wife. I may get to that story, but the only reason I'm married to what I consider the perfect woman today is because of what I'm going to teach you in about slide 14. And when I taught this later on, I remember her looking at me and going, you played me like a fiddle. I said, absolutely, because I knew the prize was going to be worth it. So use with integrity. Okay, conscious mind, subconscious mind. Now, if you go and you start searching the internet, there's 1,000 different teachings on the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. There's 1,000 books. And I always have people come to me, Wayne, which one do you recommend? And it's sad to say I can almost recommend none of them, because they take one nugget of truth and they put all of this BS around it. And so I thought, well, maybe I just need to write my own book. It's not ready yet, but just a little seed of thought there. Because if you really want to know that we do make decisions consciously and subconsciously, I don't want you to think about maybe the first time the company you're with, the first time somebody presented it to you. How did they present it? The first time you heard about the company, was it blatant? Was it very low key? Did you hear about it? And then what was your initial automatic response? And I want you to write those 3 words down. Initial automatic response. Almost everything that you see has an initial automatic response. I walk downstairs, I smell the coffee. I have an automatic response of like, the gates of heaven have opened up. I smell coffee. You know, my wife says, hey, I did some shopping on Amazon. I have an initial automatic response that is not the same as the coffee. Oh my gosh. So, but that initial automatic response, when somebody says, hey, you should look at what we're doing at EXP. You should look at what we're doing with this company. There's a response that they're going to have. And you need to be able to see that, but you also need to be able to control that. What if you could control their emotions before they had an emotion? And that's what we're going to try to get into today. So I want you to think, though, and this is really where I want you to focus, pay attention, and I want you to think about your own business for a moment. And as you think about your business, this is you individually. I don't want you to think about your team. I don't want you to think about your upline, downlines, cross line, anything. You in your business and your family. You probably already know how you want it to look, say 12, 18, maybe 24 months from now. And like me, you probably already know how you'll feel when you have accomplished it. With me, with our coaching model, I like to share how to make that an unconscious influence and help you make it a reality. So and I'm just going to ask somebody at the top, you just raise your hand. I can't see all of you. Yes, there's a reason I'm asking you this. Raise your hand, wave something. If you're like, yes, teach me more, teach me more. Come on, this is called compliance, guys. When you ask your clients to do something small and they don't do it, I'm looking at you, some of you are stubborn. You're like, I'm not waving at that camera. I'm not waving. But if you ask your client to do something small and they do it, very small, if you ask your client for a favor, it's called compliance. A little bit of compliance goes a long ways. Has anybody ever been to a stage hypnotist show? You know, they're walking around looking like, yeah, I thought it was such BS until I went to one. And I remember afterwards, I grabbed the hypnotist and I said, I don't know how much you charge an hour, but I have $500. How much time does that get me? And he laughed and he said, what do you need to know? And I said, I'm not, one question, how many questions do I get for $500? And I am a businessman, we've got to negotiate. And I really sat down with him and said, why did these people really believe that they were Elvis? Why did they really believe? And some, you could tell were not into it and you took them off stage. He said, the number one key is compliance. When you came in, we had somebody say, no, please step to the left. If you didn't step fast enough, we knew it. We marked you. If you did step quickly, we marked you. Raise your hand. Some of you raised your hand. Some of you didn't. If this was a hypnotist show, I'd know who to go after. But by asking 7 or 8 compliance issues first, they knew who was going to be compliant all the way through the process. And their show worked and made a lot of money. And a lot of people laughed at people. So I'm not saying you're going to hypnotize people. What I am saying is you can learn how to influence people throughout. This is very important. I want you to read this. The easiest and most powerful way to have someone purchase your product, list their property with you, join your team, hire you as a coach, is to have them recognize the decision as their own decision. And the reason is people rarely discard their own beliefs. People start thinking, hey, I really want that new Mercedes. Hey, I really want to move here. Now, they didn't realize they were influenced by propaganda to want that Mercedes or to move to Lake Tahoe or whatever it is. But it's their belief, they'll go for it. They'll bend heaven and hell. They'll make up excuses why they need that Mercedes, why they need to join this company. But if you use it with integrity and ethics, then you can produce a win-win for both parties. Now, sales resistance. This is something else I want you to note. In most cases, you don't face true objections. This is real important. When trying to help somebody, you usually face a distorted view of reality. When someone feels like they are being sold, I told you a while ago to write down initial automatic response. Well, this is also important, their automatic emotional response. See, everything that we do is emotional. I look at EXP, I look at the business model, I have an emotion. Where did that emotion come from? Is it rev share? Is it I can do coaching, build a team? What is it? I look at another company's business model. I have an emotion. What does that emotion do? Where did that emotion come from? That emotion came from programming. But if something can be programmed, it can be reprogrammed. That makes sense? How many of you ever, spent $1,000 on a phone and then it says, oh, it has to be updated? What do you update it. Things change, things work better. So I'm going to share with you in the next 30 minutes or so how to affect their emotional response and how to make sure it's good towards you and negative towards other people. Okay. 100%. I've had people argue with me, and in my humble but accurate opinion, they're wrong. 100% of decisions are based upon emotion. And I sat down with an investor the other day, and the investor said, Wayne, I totally disagree with you. The last 2 commercial properties I bought were strictly numbers. I didn't even see the property. We looked at everything. We looked at the investment, we looked at cap rate, we looked at all of his numbers. I said, you feel good that you made a good investment? He said, I do feel good. That's what you were looking for. Your investment makes you money, but you're looking for the feeling of feeling good. So it was an emotional response. And he said, F you, and walked out. And he was like, you got me, you win. You're right. It was an emotional response. So if everything's emotional, for those who are in relationships now, maybe happily or unhappy, what was that response? How did you fall in love with that person? How did you decide to work with that person? How did you decide to get in business with that person or not? And you need to ask yourself, because it was an emotional response without a doubt. So even our logical or analytical decisions can be swayed if the proper emotional state is elicited. And me and Brandon have gone through this quite a bit in some of our coaching calls, and I'm going to share with you how to do it. I'm going to give you the shortened version here today. So how many have ever seen this movie, which I don't even think was that great, but it was well known, Inception? Okay. The whole thing about Inception was get inside of somebody's brain, create a dream. And the person who constructs the dream was the architect. And the first 20 minutes was like, oh, what a great movie. The other 2 hours was terrible. But the point of the movie was very valid. I watched it about 5 times and I thought, whoever wrote this movie understands behavioral science, they understand neuroscience, and they're really, really, really are probably good in sales. Because if you can allow someone to have the genesis effect, I call it, they call it in the movie Genesis thought or whatever, that first thought that is theirs. So being a minister, I'll borrow from the Bible. If you go to Genesis, the first book, it means the first. It means the beginning or new beginning. So if you can create that Genesis effect in their thought process, then it will sprout forth. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So pro tip, when someone this is worth taking this right here, take a picture. Okay. When someone makes up their own mind, when your decision instead becomes their decision, you will earn their business. So when I want Chinese food tonight, I don't go to my wife and say, hey, what would you like to eat tonight? Because she's going to pick Mexican food. I know her. I want Chinese. Or if there are things, let me just say something that simple. There are little things I could do throughout the day to make her go, I really want Chinese food. And there is, but we can't get into it all here today. And if she sees this, I'll never get Chinese food again. So allow them to sell their selves. Emotions are anchored. Understand this. How many remember a childhood smell? How many remember, a cologne, a perfume? I have a friend, he doesn't realize that he's 30 years past the time when the green Polo bottle was cool. But he still wears the green. If anybody wears green Polo, I'm sorry. He wears the green patchouli, and it's so strong. But he wears the green Polo. And immediately, I go back to a denim jacket. It was a Chaps Ralph Lauren denim jacket, by the way. I go back to the denim jacket. I go back to a certain girl's home, and I'll end it there. That memory pops up just from smelling that crazy cologne. Maybe a song. A song produces memories. What's a memory do? It gives you emotion. If you want to get me a speeding ticket, but on any 80s rock, put me down interstate with, my Mercedes, I'm going to get a speeding ticket. It just happens because I'm going to get into that emotional state. I'm back in my 5.0 Mustang back in the day. And it's just that powerful. But something else that brings up memories and emotions are your pictures and your visual things that you see either in your mind or you see in front of you. This is why your websites, this is why your brochures, this is why your listing presentations, this is why everything needs to have a positive emotion attached to it. And I'm going to say that again. Everything, your contracts, your presentation must have a positive emotion attached to it. And if you're going, how in the heck do I do that? I hope I have time here to teach you. Because what if, and let's just be a little sneaky, what if you could put only positive emotions and thoughts towards your EXP packet? And what if you could also put some negative emotions on something else, like the company they're with, the company they're choosing? Happens every day, guys. I'm not teaching you something that only a Jedi master could do. I'm teaching you what happens every day in just an indoctrination system of television programming. But we want to amplify it so we can make it work one-on-one for us. So every one of you watching this, you have internal anchors. And those anchors, again, smells, thoughts, they can be reformed. They can be eliminated. They can have new anchors created, which I think is really cool. So I'm going to go another minute or two and I'm going to ask for questions. I didn't want to do that, but I think this is, when you get in something deep like this, sometimes it's good to have questions. Okay. So what is an anchor? If we're going to talk about an anchor is and that's a misspell, but should say useful and often overlooked technique. What you're doing is you're inducing a certain frame of mind or emotion, such as relaxation, such as happiness, such as whatever it may be. Now, an anchor usually involves a gesture, a word, something that you can apply. So I'm gonna go deeper into human behavior psychology here. If you have an anchor on your own self, and you hear Jordan Belfort, Tony Robbins talk about this, you can set an anchor. You know, for Jordan Belfort, I'm just going to tell you what it was. He said he would get, when he just made a sale, he closed a sale, he ripped off another person, whatever it was. He'd take a snort of cocaine. Not what we're teaching here today, but he would take a snort of cocaine. He would get this buzz. Now, what happened was he realized, wow, this is my emotional state. I can put myself back in this emotional state before my next cold call. He just had to take another bump. Boom, he's there again. Not recommended. Now he uses some kind of aroma stick, he says. But anyway, that's your emotional state. How many of you, before you get on a sales call, before you meet with a client, before you open the door to go home, you change your state of mind? That makes sense? Okay, that's your emotional state. But what about an emotional state of somebody else? What if I'm on the phone? What if I'm doing a coaching session with Brandon, and he doesn't, but what if he's got off topic a little bit and I need to bring him back? I need to reset his anchor. I know how, because I've worked with Brandon enough that I can say something or even make a certain hand gesture and it starts bringing Brandon back to focus. This is what you want to do with your product, your service. And it happens again, it happens every day. Don't believe it? Look at any commercial for any prescription drug that you cannot pronounce the name to. What did they show? Woman dancing through the field, husband singing with her, swinging the grandkids around, and it's for something for psoriasis. They say, hey, take this. They're anchoring all of these positive emotions to that pill. That makes sense? Sex. How many times they show you the sexy car, they show you the car, they show you the whatever, and then they have an attractive woman or attractive man. My wife the other day said they got Matthew McConaughey, whatever his name is, with a Buick. You know he don't drive a Buick. I said, of course he don't drive a Buick. But what they've done is they've taken her words, sex appeal, and anchored it to the Buick. That's just what they're doing. They're trying to do an anchor through repetition. So how do we anchor things one-on-one? How do you do this with your next client? All emotion, we go back to this, all emotions can be transformed, twisted, etc. Every emotion is a genesis moment when it was formed in the mind of someone. So I posted this on Facebook the other day, mask or no mask, and then above that I typed, hey, just curious, has your belief changed since you first started seeing someone wear a mask? So not to get into politics, but some have. I've got very good friends that said, I'm never going to wear a mask. I'll never wear a mask. It doesn't work. It's crazy, brainwashing, liberals, whatever. And then I have heard them over the last few months go, you know what? Why don't people just wear a mask? And it's common courtesy. The same person. Now, why did they believe so strong one way and begin to get shifted? It's called propaganda, called indoctrination. It's called anchors. They see a mask, they have an emotional attachment to it. And if you're going, how in the world just go back to real estate? Just hang tight, because people, again, from the moment they hear about your company and what you're trying to do, or they hear that you're a realtor, how many have been scared to say I'm a realtor because all of a sudden they run? All right, Brandon, really? I don't tell people I'm a minister. I don't, because if I tell somebody I'm a minister, they change their language, they change their behavior. I don't get to know the real person. So I don't tell them until I feel like I need to, or maybe never, because I have a purpose and mission in life, but it isn't to let them know who I am. Same thing with real estate. You want to sell more, buy more, and build a team, you've got to shift and form emotions more than you go do anything. Because people do business with people they like. You've heard that. Well, how do you get people to like you and trust you and know you? And we're going to talk about it. All right. Any questions? And I can't see the screen, guys, so I don't want to. Any questions now in chat or anything? That anybody got any questions on this, or should I just continue on? Anybody falling asleep yet? Anybody?
Feel free to unmute yourself, guys. If you got a question, you can also unmute yourself and just ask.
Okay. I'm gonna take that as a no. If anybody does have, okay. Are we good? Okay. If anybody has a question, type it in chat. Again, as I said, we're back to list, sell, recruit using emotions. Crayons. Anybody tell me what a box of Crayola crayons smell like? They bring back memory. They do. Do you know that the crayons are one of the most powerful anchors as far as a physical anchor in the body that there is? Now, not everybody's childhood was great. Mine wasn't. But most of the time when I was coloring with a coloring book, it was pretty fun. When I got a new box, I remember getting the 64 box. Remember that? It's like 4 shades of brown. It's crazy. And, you know, but I was impressed. And it had a sharpener on. I could sharpen my crayon. I'm like, dude, this, you know, I was the rock star. Well, Volkswagen and BMW, and I worked with Volkswagen. I was a trainer for Volkswagen for a number of years. And people would say, why do Volkswagen smell like crayons? And BMW for a number of years had the same smell. Literally for years, you could jump in the car and it smelled like a box of crayons. Now, Volkswagen said, oh, we apologize. Excuse me, we apologize. This is just the wax that we use in the forming of the upholstery. I don't believe it was a mistake at all. I work with Volkswagen, and there's no company that knows propaganda better than Volkswagen, period. They hire some of the best psychologists to make you want to buy that little beetle bug. And now I'm not even going to get into the whole Hitler and propaganda, but it's true, they use propaganda. And so the smell wasn't by accident. How many has ever or thought about making those warm cookies before you have an open house? How many has at least bought a Glade plug-in and plugged in the vanilla for a house? Because you want that good, this smells like home, this smells warm. And that is the power of smell. So if you can change the way somebody believes, no, if anybody had walk in a house and they smell smoke or they smell mildew, you know, and there's an automatic emotional response. So this is where we get into the hell yes or hell no. And what I mean by that is, and yes, I'm a minister that said, hell yes, it's not bad. I had a coach that used to tell me, Wayne, is that a hell yes or hell no? If I had an idea, I've got a great idea. How many of you have great ideas? It's like you're like in the shower, like writing in, you shouldn't see my shower, it'd be weird, but my shower, when it fogs up, I got a big glass and I'm writing, I've got funnels drawn out, I've got dollar signs. My wife's like, what are you doing? Can't you just get a shower? So, but all of these ideas come to me, and my coach would say, Wayne, is that a hell yes or a hell no? I'm like, well, it's a maybe, but then it's not for today. And we live in that very binary world. Are people going to join your company or not join your company? Are they going to hire you as a coach or not hire you as a coach? And when people say, let me think about it, you don't have to raise your hands, but how many people have given a great presentation? You sold EXP, you sold yourself. And they said, let me think about it. Or let me see what my broker will do. Or let's wait till the first of the year. Anytime there's a let me think about it, there's emotions in their mind that you woke up in your presentation that they didn't know what to do with. It's like you woke up emotions. You woke up the little gremlins, but you didn't guide them. There's no clarity. So they say, let me think about it. The emotions die back down. They continue into their life instead of joining your team. So let's learn how to link positive emotions and remove negative. Okay. Emotional reality. When someone meets you, this is very important to write down. Everybody meets you, they're in a positive state of mind, a negative state of mind. Very few, but some are in neutral. Okay. So positive people are not always positive, negative are not always negative. So you get to shift their state. When I'm calling someone, if I'm doing a call, and I do a lot of coaching in a couple different areas of client attraction, if I'm calling somebody and we're having a conversation, I may say to them simply something like, I'll start the conversation, but their sales radar is up. Oh, Wayne's going to try to sell me. Oh, this is what's going to happen. Oh, he's going to try to recruit me, whatever it may be. So they're in the negative. I got to move them to at least neutral. And the way I do it is a couple different rapport building techniques. And I don't have time to get in those now, but just 2 or 3 sentences that build rapport, that get them talking. That's most important. Can you get the other person talking? Because the most pleasant voice in the world is their own voice. The most pleasant voice in the world is their own voice. And when they're talking, they're hearing themselves. And when they hear themselves, they move from negative to at least neutral. This is how you begin to shift emotion. Get your prospect to talk. Something me and Brandon talked about also, and I want to say this in case I don't have it labeled in these slides, never assume your benefit of your company is a benefit to the other person. Because you may think it's a great benefit, and you bring that emotion and you're trying to influence them. Maybe it's not a great benefit to them. Maybe it's actually a negative to them for some reason. What you've done is shifted them to a negative state of mind. So what do? We ask questions. We ask questions that elicit criteria instead, so then we can lead them. All right, here's a fact. Some of you will disagree with this, but again, I'm correct. Your product or company is not always the best opportunity for someone else. It's simply not. I was talking to a lady the other day and I offered my opportunity and she said, Wayne, I'm 67 years old. I'm selling my business. I'm moving to Texas. I bought a ranch 2 years ago and I'm going to raise pygmy goats. I don't want to, okay, my opportunity was not best for her unless I was selling pygmy goats, whatever they are. So understand that. So we allow them the opportunity to say no. Sometimes there have been people you've tried to recruit. If you said, listen, I want to share something with you, feel free to tell me no at any time. If it isn't for you. You've lowered sales resistance and you've given them the opportunity. You've given them a false, at least, sense of control. Because now they've lowered their resistance, you can start asking the right questions. And we want them to make a decision they feel good with. And then it's real simple. What I've showed you could possibly be what you're looking for. Let's see if it is or if it's not. And watch their body. This is the most important. You've got to have real flexibility of behavior. You need to be able to shift, but you have to learn how to watch the other person. Watch their body when they're talking about their negative mind. When they're talking about things that are negative, look at their body posture. Now, I'm not going to tell you Brandon's, that wouldn't be fair, but I can tell you when Brandon's in, I can look at his body posture because we've done enough Zoom calls to know when it's negative or positive or excited. Now, what if I need him to get excited about this week's lesson? Can I shift my body posture and match a mirror and get him to follow? Yes. So the point is you've got to learn how to read other people. That's most important if you're going to influence them. So I want you to write down these 5 words. Brandon, me and you've gone through this and you know it works. What's important to you about? Now, you don't do it as an interrogator. I would never go to somebody and say, Brandon, what's most important to you about your real estate business? What's most important to you about a career? But what I do is just bring it up in conversational persuasion. Hey, Brandon, I'm really curious. When you think about your real estate business, or you think about your career, what's most important to you? What's important to you about? Or what's most important? And just ask a question and listen. And when they respond, you ask another question. As someone shares, first is going to be surface level. I want to make more money. I want time freedom. Blah, blah, blah. I want to beat this other agent, whatever it is. Okay, great. What you're listening for is you're listening for the surface level. Oh, more time freedom. Okay. What the heck does that mean? That means something for everybody different. So I let them explain anything else that's important to you, Brandon, and they go through. Who can I get a volunteer? I want to play with this for a minute. Anybody want to volunteer to just role play for 5 minutes, 3 minutes? We'll do a shortened version. I can't see the screen, so I apologize. I can't see the. Okay, so then I'm gonna ask you to call somebody out since nobody wants to volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
You'll volunteer, and it's Audrey?
Yes.
Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. And anytime during this, you don't want to go any deeper, say, Wayne, I want to get out. Just, that's fine.
Okay.
Just stop talking.
Which
Okay.
may be in the first few seconds. So,
Yeah, it
That's
possibly
good.
could have been, but it's probably won't now. So let me ask you then, Audrey, obviously you're in this business for reasons that are important to you
Mhm.
and what you want out of it. Can I ask you, when you look at this business, if you had to say, what would be most important to you about building your own business?
What's most important to me about building my own business?
Yeah.
Being able to feel like I'm adding value into the world.
Wow. Value into the world. That's a big, that's big. That's big. Most people say cars, money, new Mercedes, whatever. So value into the world. Can I ask you, can you go a little deeper into that? What does value into the world mean for you personally?
Adding value into the world is just, being someone that people look at as being trustworthy and someone that they can depend on as well. So adding that positive value into the world for, encourage either whether it be encouraging someone or just helping them along the way whenever they feel like they have nothing, then to me, that would be me adding value into the world.
Yeah. And have you already had those situations where you felt like you were adding value and that felt good?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing you said there really struck with me was somebody they could depend on. Why is that so important in your life? Is that something that that you want to give to others, or something that you've had people you can depend upon and people you can trust? Or why is that important, to dependent upon others?
Or others feeling like they have someone in like myself to depend on. I think that just stems from whenever I was younger, because I lost my mom at such a young age, and my dad kind of disappeared after that. So,
Sorry.
so it made me feel like I was alone for a long time, and it was just my sister and I, and so I had to be the caretaker for my sister. So since I was being that caretaker for my sister all the time, I felt like, she was depending on me, but I was left to just have myself to, I couldn't even really think about who I could depend on, because I had to just act and be the provider for myself and my sister. So I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why that's important for me.
Yeah. Number one, I'm sorry for your loss, truthfully. I lost my mom when I was 7. My dad tried to be the caretaker. I can respect where that comes from. And so I guess you would say, ultimately, if you can help somebody else never feel what you felt.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'm gonna stop there and thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys, have you ever, and I truly mean that, I have lost my mom. Is that deeper than, hey, why do you want to build a business with me? In what, 4 minutes? You really, now, please understand, without manipulating people, what you found is your real reason. If I can truly help you, never help other people, is there any reason you wouldn't work with me? Is there any reason you wouldn't come on my team? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when you're sharing, when you're asking somebody that, now imagine that I was, again, trying to recruit you, and somebody else just showed you rev share, comp plan, cool brochures, trip to Hawaii or something. But I hit this emotional level and said, I can help you. And here's how I can help you. Does anybody else see the value in that? Number one, is a human being. I can connect with her. I worked with Brandon a couple of weeks before we ever jumped into what's important. And I think it was an eye-opener for me and Brandon. Why is he doing what he's doing? So thank you again for volunteering. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And you are doing a great job. I don't even know you. I hear it in your heart. You're going to do great. So go yeah, so I want to share what I did there. I said, what's important to you? She said, value in the world. That I'm not saying surface level is bad, but that was her way of saying what she wanted to say through tears. Okay, but what about value? And she said, dependent upon others. And I wrote down, guys, just simply wrote down some of the words she said. And one that I heard was depend upon. Then I went into that and she told me about her mom. This is the power of eliciting emotions. I said I'd keep this in 40 minutes. Is it okay if I go 10 more minutes, guys? Okay. So, when I met my wife, I'm gonna flip this. Now that was sad, and you know what? You make your mom proud by going out there and doing what you're doing. That makes sense. I think that all the time. Would my mom be proud of what I'm doing? But let's flip it on another side. I met my wife here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Hey, welcome to the neighborhood. I was living in this unit. She was living in the unit above me. She was like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm not dating anybody. Get away from me. It was almost that rude. I'm like, hey, cool. Hey, I get it. So now it was almost like a challenge. So I'm like, hey, listen, you want to grab a bite to eat sometime? No, I'm good. Okay, great. So I kept on slowly. Listen, you got to eat, right? So we sit down and we agree to go eat as friends. There's no communication. There's no sexual tension. There's nothing. And I said, listen, so we had a conversation and I said, listen, I'm curious though. I know you said you weren't looking at a boyfriend. I get all that stuff. If you were to, what would you say is important to you about a relationship? That's when I pulled the fiddle out that she said I played her with. Over the next 45 minutes to an hour, I asked her what was important about that. I listened to her. I didn't write down notes, come on, but I made mental notes. And at the end of it, I said, ultimately, what's important? And guys, I saw her body shift. I saw her look down and she said 2 words, and I'll never reveal those 2 words to anybody else because that's my wife's love language. But those 2 words, I had to ask myself, can I be the man that meets both of those goals? And I said, I can be. And I knew sitting there over quesadillas with a woman that said, I don't even want to go out with you, that she was going to be my wife if I could meet those goals. And that is the power of eliciting criteria. You get to ask people. It's just fun. Hey, what's important to you about it? Go 3 levels deep. Now, Dean Graziolis, I love his last name, right? I couldn't spell it for $1 million. But Dean talks about this in his book, Going 7 Levels Deep. But I'm going to tell you, to go 7 levels deep, you're going to really break somebody at a deep level, and it's not what we need. We need to go about 3 levels deep. Usually 3rd level, they get into emotions. And that's how you move people. Now, I purposely did not do a lot of what I would normally do in this situation because we number one time, and because you went into something that was so emotional about your mom. But I could take that love for your mom, that love for yourself, and I could attach that to my business opportunity. Does that make sense? And the fear of not being looked at that way, I could attach it to Keller Williams, Century 21, anybody else. That's the power of emotional influence. Okay. Active listening is crucial. We sped it up for time's sake. But active listening, I normally would have took about 5 minutes between each question. Never give a premature presentation. Write that down. Premature presentations are embarrassing. Premature presentation is you start speaking before you know what they're really looking for. You start giving your pitch. But instead, you want to wait, go through the process of eliciting criteria. Then I could have said back to you, hey, earlier you said that being seen as someone that is trustworthy and that they can depend upon is important. With our program, we have coaching that will help all of your agents do this and this and this. Earlier you said, and then I could have brought back what she said was important and anchored it auditorily to your company. Make sense? Y'all with me? Awesome. So acknowledge their thoughts, respect their decisions, and then shift their own thoughts to work with you. Okay. Simple formula. This is real important. Something they're thinking of doing, when you're looking at joining a company, you want to make sure you know their criteria. So you can put in something they want. When you're looking to join a company that can build wealth for your family, when you're looking something that can, whatever it may be, Do you want something negative? Do you want to join one of those old brokerages with the same old systems that are still spinning their wheels from 1950s? Or maybe you're looking something that will let people see you as a trustworthy, dependable person that you are, and you use back their very same language. When you're talking about the other people, you kind of just point away. That's auditory. I mean, that's another form of anchoring when I won't get into now. And you're talking about people that you want to work with, you just kind of do a slight point to yourself to your contract. Not gonna get the psychology behind that, just believe me, it works. So be flexible, because some people go, I'll never join a company. So let me ask you, how would you handle this? I'll never join a company that has those virtual offices. What? I want to work in an office with people and, water cooler talk and BS. How do you handle that? You can't if you just come in with a feature benefit. You can if you know why they feel that way. Because why they feel that way is an emotion. And that emotion can be linked to another thing that you do have to offer. That makes sense. This is what I hear a lot. Wayne, ever since we talked, I keep thinking about what you said. It just feels right. I made the decision to go ahead and work with you. Because I want to set an anchor, a genesis effect in their mind. I want them to know and if I truly can help them, I'm here to help you. I want you to feel good about that. Wayne, let's list that house. Wayne, let's get to work. Because once a person begins to attach those positive emotions, think about, I said earlier, I did something called an empty bucket elicitation at the beginning of this. In the beginning, I asked every one of you to think about your business 12, 18, 24 months from now. You know how it'll look, right? But you know how you'll feel also. And you had an image. Maybe it was the car, home, whatever. You had an image, you had a feeling. Then I said, with me, that's what I want to help you do. What I did was just anchor that emotion to Wayne Sutton, but more importantly, I gave you a genesis effect in your own thought that they could move on and move on and move on. Now, your job is to help them move towards that emotion, because that emotion must be validated. Why do I want to join this company? Why am I feeling this way? Then you give features and benefits so they can validate their emotional response. Make sense? Because if you're not doing it, the competition is. Hey, you should go with this company. They're the gold standard. You should be with this company. They've been in business since 1813, whatever. That's the same kind of thing. So I'm going to try to recap quickly. Positive, neutral, negative. You've met with people that are this. Go back and get them talking. Find out what's important to them. That little exercise I did with you, oh my gosh. I mean, I could spend an hour with you and truly want to just hear your story. You listen to somebody's story for an hour while they're crying, they're connected to you, unlike every other piece of competition out there. Okay? Negative associations. You can elicit negative. I'm not going to get into this. I'm going to do this quick. But you can think, what's things that you didn't like about the last company you were with? What's things that you would never want to happen? Doubt and fear are powerful internal motivators. Listen, these are not even real facts, okay? I'm not going to tell you, these don't, except Hillary Clinton down there, she said it. But I want you just to read these. Less than 0.5% of realtors become millionaires without building a team. Huh, whoa, that's like a lottery ticket. I better join a team. I better build a team. And you don't even have to stand on that. Just drop the seed, let it go. No agents ever built a team that created true wealth without first hiring a coach to assist them. No Democrat has won the presidency without winning Pennsylvania since 1948. Hillary Clinton was really good in this. Even if she didn't win, she was good in this because she used fear, she used the negative association, and she used the time. That makes sense? She used the time, 1948. All right, positive. Internal beliefs are powerful motivators. Just as you, Brandon, have made other great decisions in the past. Can you see how working with our team could also help you? You just brought up an emotion, and you slow this down, but you bring up a thought of when they made a great decision. But I only want you to do what you feel is good for you and your future, Brandon. So let me ask you, do you feel moving over to our brokerage could possibly be the right reason for you? And as soon as they start to answer, interrupt them. It's okay to interrupt people. But why is it though? That last sentence there has made me more money than you would believe. Do you feel like this could be possibly the coaching you're looking for? But why is it though? They have to tell you, they convince themselves if you've done a good job. You feel like I could be possibly the one you want to marry? You know, she's like, well, possible. Why? By then I had her. It wasn't possibly. But anyway, so positive emotions, you can link them to you as well. So what's next? I want you to determine how you are unconsciously influenced. I want you to notice the TV shows you're watching. I want you to notice when this happens on a TV show and there's a laugh track, which makes you laugh about it. I want you to notice when the Apple, the Coca-Cola, whatever is product placement in a positive scene. I want you to notice when somebody asks you questions. I want you to notice Trump, Biden, Kamala, whoever, whatever team you're on. I want you to notice the verbiage they use. Trump uses something called repetition. We know that. Believe me, believe me, believe me. But guess what? People believe him or they don't. He uses polarization. But the point is, when someone sees about you, when someone sees or hears about you, what emotional state are they automatically in? And last, what's important to you about? Go play with this. Go play with this. I do this a lot. I do this with my children. Hey, listen, I know that's real important that you want this. Why is that important to you? Hey, Dad, I want to be homeschooled this year. Okay, great. Can I ask you what's important to you about homeschool? And go 3 levels deep and you get to the real core. Oh, you're feeling bullied at school. They don't say that initially. Okay. But can we look at another perspective? Are you open to, I mean, this is a 10-year-old I'm having these deep conversations with. Is it possible that maybe we can look at it from another perspective? You'd be amazed when you ask people this. Ask people what's important to you. Practice with friends, with family, with clients. Hey, thank you so much for, you're at a closing table. They just got a commission check. Thank you so much for using us. Can I ask you what's important to you about a realtor? Now I'm gonna ask you for referrals, obviously. So what's important to you about a referral? And you're reselling yourself. So I covered a lot, guys. I hope this was recorded. Take notes. If it's okay, feel free to reach out to me. If you go to Discover Real Results, it's a simple funnel, name, email address. You will get 1 coaching session with me free. We'll see if I can help you. And I'm truthfully here. You're like, oh, he's going to be saying all kinds of linguistic language stuff. Yes, but if I can't help you, I can't help you. If I'm not for you, I'm not for you. If I am, I'd love to help you. I hope this has been helpful for somebody. I'll take any questions, or if you need to shut this down and continue to the next session, guys, I hope this has been helpful though.
That's awesome, Wayne. I do want to give everybody an opportunity to either make a comment or a question, and we will move into the next section. But Wayne, super happy to have had you and all the stuff that you just shared. Obviously, you talked a lot about EXP because you're coaching with Brandon. Brandon brought you here. A lot of your conversations are probably geared around that. But I can see all of the connections for talking to sellers that we want to list with us. I mean, I love when a husband and wife comes to me and said, hey, we've talked about it and we've decided to list with you. I'm not the guy that's going to slide the contract across the table and say, do the right thing, sign the contract.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm not that guy. So I got a lot of good takeaways. Anybody else want a comment or question for Wayne?
I'd love to say something. So we have quite a few new agents on the Zoom call. And I would say as a buying agent, for me, when I'm meeting with someone for the first time, I think what you brought up, tell me about what's important to you, is super important, because I love to show people what's wrong with a house. I have 40 rental houses. I love to point out what to look for in a home and how to protect them. But what if the most important thing is something totally different than what I'm going after? So I really like that. And I think you should really consider that when you're actually meeting someone for the first time, is finding out what is the most important thing to you so that you can address that.
It is actually how I got involved in real estate. I bought my first house. My second house, and they never asked. I mean, I finally sat down with them and said, I want to buy this house, help me, sell me, tell me something. They never asked what was really important, or more than, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a frog. They never said what's really important to you. And there was some emotional reasons why I wanted this house, and they never asked. They didn't know to. They're a client of mine now, so now they do ask. But the point is, you're right. If you ask new agents, if that person knows you care, you can show them the wrong house and they'll buy it. It gives you an opportunity to really help them, is what I mean. And Also, so if I may, when you're showing them and they're like, hey, we're going to look at 50 houses, yay, you can let them know, hey, find out what's important and say, okay, so you said this is most important. I don't know if it's going to be the first, second, or maybe the fifth house we walk in. But when we walk in that right house, it's going to instantly hit you. It's like an epiphany, and you're going to know this is the one. And when you feel that, I want you to just raise your hand, literally like a kid in school. I've said that and had people walk in a house, look around, and raise their hand. Okay, so we don't need to see anything else. No, why is this the one? But why is this the one? And it went from, can we get 20,000 off to let's write a full price offer tonight. That's when, because you really took time to care and to listen and apply it to the right home. So that's a great point.
I love that. And one more comment on that note that Lynn brought up. So we don't like to do, and you on the team have heard me and Eric talk about this a lot. We don't like to do listing presentations, right? It's a consultation. We go in there and we find out what their needs are and how we're going to help them accomplish their goals. Most agents walk in and it's me, my brokerage, my stats, the market, this and that. They don't want to really know all that. It's like, what is the goal that they want to do? In fact, so next week we have David's going to do a training for us on generating leads through LinkedIn. You're not going to want to miss that one. Then we're going to take a break in between Christmas and New Year's. And then I'm actually going to do my listing presentation the way Lynn and I do listing presentations on January 5th, that next one. So a lot of what Wayne is talking about resonates with me, even though I haven't been coached or trained, because and that's what I love about all you on this call. We're all kind of family for a reason. We attract people that are like us, right? And I love all of you because it's about the seller, it's about the buyer, it's about the client and achieving their objective. And you guys are all killing it in that arena. So just wanted to make that comment there. Anybody else before we move on? Anybody here? Any comments, questions? Yeah, it's good stuff, right?
Great stuff, man.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wayne, do I have your permission to share your slide deck with the people that were here today?
Absolutely. No, please, absolutely share it. And if you have any questions, again, even if, hey, Wayne, I'm not going to hire you. I have a coach, but I just want some more information. I'll squeeze in some time. I love really, that's why I offered a one free coaching session, because I love to, maybe we're not going to work together, but if I can get some value, like I said, I have pulled from a lot of mentors, so I like to be one that people can pull from. If I can end with one last thought, is never look at this as manipulative. If your heart's manipulative, you'll use it for that reason. If your heart, as Audrey said, is really to make people see you in a different way, use every tool that you have. And that, I think, consciously, people are being persuaded unconsciously. Make sure you have the ability. And there are techniques to attach it to your company and attach negative to others. And you got to look at crossing that line if it is ethical, moral in your own heart. But I appreciate you guys having me on today.
Thanks, Wayne. And actually, the first note I wrote down was when you were talking about persuasion, you mentioned a couple of times, use with integrity, use with integrity. This isn't about manipulation or even persuasion. I don't want to persuade somebody to do something I want them to do, right? But with integrity, you can help them come to their own conclusion. So thanks again, brother. Appreciate you. Brandon, any last thoughts?
No, it's great. I can't wait till our next call.
Okay, cool. Now you guys on Zoom are welcome to stay on the call, but we're about to do what Wayne calls a premature presentation.
Yes, we are.
Now I have a name
Think
for
about
it.
presentations the same way again. If you jump too soon, like, oh my gosh, it wasn't premature. You romanced them. They're ready.